Hi everyone, comic book reviewer here. This time reviewing on the Ghibli film Howl's Moving Castle. Now, Howl's Moving Castle is a 2004 Japanese animated fantasy film that was directed by Hayao Miyazaki, which is based on the 1986 novel of the same name by Diana Wynne Jones, as well as being the next entry into the whole Ghibli film series. And I would say the point of Howl's Moving Castle is kind of like Tales from Earthsea, but following a different path from what it was trying to do with Goro Miyazaki. So the premise of the film is meant to follow Sophie Hatter, who is meant to kind of be the sort of local hat maker, as well as the eldest of three sisters. We kind of see how she gets turned to an old lady by the Witch of the Waste and is turned into a 90-year-old woman. And we see how she seeks out to break the curse, and we kind of see how she ends up meeting Howl, who is this kind of cunning but daring sorcerer, as well as his apprentice, Marco. I would say Howl is a bit more of the smooth talker, and I think Christian Bale really does do a good job. And I think Marco being played by Josh Hudson, who is also known for being in The Bridge of Terabithia, Sabora, and The Hunger Games. So again, this was also before becoming a more serious actor. And over the course of the film, we do see how Sophie, much older, does kind of play the supporting role with the two. And I think it's heavily implied that when Sophie no longer feels older, she reverts back to her younger age. And I think what's interesting in the English dub, having Emily Mortimer play the younger one and Gene Simmons play the older one does work, as it's kind of like a balancing transformation. And I think it's interesting how in the house you do have this kind of fire sprite-like creature known as Salva, who is voiced by Billy Crystal. And he really plays this kind of jokeful but kind of non-serious character. And I think what's interesting over the film, we do kind of see how Howl is disgusted with the war, and we do kind of see how Sophie and Nam do kind of see full-hand the consequences of it. I think the message of the film is mainly about finding your true age, no longer feeling old, and still feeling young at heart. And I think the second part of the story of Howl is basically looking from what's beneath. And I also kind of think when you've got Howl's former teacher, Solomon, I think it's kind of implied that she's setting up the wall as well as the invites to look for any potential wizards and witches that can kind of fix themselves and learn the errors of their ways. I think the way I saw the Witch of the Waste was meant to be a dark counterpart to Sophie. While Sophie was meant to still feel young again, the Wicked Witch of the Waste never really did, and this kind of goes off with a kind of minimal redemption. And I kind of think the way I look at Solomon is kind of like a counterpart to Howl. While Howl was meant to kind of help Sophie be the better person, I think Solomon's methods were a little more extreme. And I think, to me, is that, well, Tales from Earthsea was a bit more better because it knew the premise it wanted to, and I think a lot of Ghibli fans do put Goro Miyazaki's work to impossible standards. I think, to me, is that Howl's Moving Castle is the weaker version, and I think people kind of expected, after this film, that they kind of expected, like, something bigger, better, and something more from Hayao Miyazaki. I think, to me, what Goro Miyazaki got right at is actually going with a fantasy-like setting and ending the story there. I think to me, Howl's Moving Castle feels like there's still more to tell. There's still more adventures we could see. And I know the book also did had other two other twos in the series, Castle in the Sky and House of Many Ways. So I'm hoping one day we might get those adapted and see what Hayao Miyazaki or any team of the Ghibli community can bring in. I think to me, Howl's Moving Castle is definitely an alright film. It's definitely good, definitely great, and definitely deserves a thumbs up. Still good, and still alright. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.